Good morning. If you have decided to try to become a professional hypnotherapist, keep watching our training videos about hypnosis. Hypnosis is a powerful technique with which you can help and improve the quality of life of a great number of future patients. Remember, read the description of this video where you can find a link to free training classes on clinical hypnosis. And also, you will be able to download several ebooks also free. Let's see the framing technique. Framing technique. First person and present tense. You must insist that the patient relieves and does not remember. That is to say, the patient must relieve the senses visualized in the first person, and above all, in the present. The patient must be immersed in the scene he is relieving and not remembering, describing what he is seeing and feeling as the main protagonist of the event he is reliving. For the therapy to be as therapeutic as possible, the patient must relieve and not remember in the first person and in the present tense. We must prevent the patient's defensive system from using the past, remembering, instead of the present, relieving. No, Mom was shooting at me and I was crying. Yes, Mom is shouting at me and I cry. When the scene that the patient is relieving is very strong or painful, we'll use the projection on the screen for the patient, that is to say, as if they were watching a film. In subsequent sessions, we'll make a progressive approach until the patient lives in the first person. The patient must be able to relieve it in the first person and in the present, everything that generated the conflict, the traumas, the disorder that he or she is currently suffering, in order to bring to light all the emotions, experiences, and patterns of behavior. Experiences and patterns of behavior that he himself constructed as his model of survival, and finally to become aware of all of this. In this way, we will be able to advance in the correct path of the patient's personal well-being. Projection on screen. I am looking very sad because my mother scolded me. Reliving in the first person. Mom is scolding me and I am very sad. We must take into account that the patient, when talking to us, may use symbols, so we must be familiar with them in order to be able to decipher them correctly. Symbology. The queen is shouting at her servant and he cries. Translation. Mama is shouting at me and I cry. The interpretation of dreams, rewires and visions is a personal matter, as no one has the same baggage of experiences, associations and memories, both conscious and unconscious, as another person. However, symbolic and archetypal representations have a universal source, which we all share and to which we all have access. This source is what Carl Jung calls the collective unconscious. That is why the interpretation of symbols can help us to unravel the messages we receive when we are in other frequencies of human consciousness, such as during dreams, the effects of certain types of psychotherapy drugs, or in a state of hypnosis. Whenever is possible, the visualization exercises and other techniques applied under hypnosis, it is important to leave them in the first person and in the present. In many occasions, the defensive system used by the patient is to remember using the past and not to relive what was visualized in the present. Example. No. My mother hit me, she scolded me, and I felt bad and cried. Yes, my mother hits me, scolds me, and I feel bad and cry. We must correct what the patient says, repeating it in the present tense. That is, we correct changing the tense of the verb. If the patient gets very nervous when relieving a painful situation from his childhood under hypnosis, we can tell him to see it as a spectator, that is, to leave it as if he was watching it in a film, and not as a participant. But the idea is to leave it again in the first person, so our mission is to accustom the patient to leave it in the first person and in the present tense. Example. No, I'm looking sad because my mother scolds me. Yes, my mother is scolding me and I am sad. The patient must be able to live in the first person the whole story that generated his or her problem, to bring to light all the negative emotions, experiences, and behavioral patterns that he or she used or constructed to get ahead. In other words, to relieve it all in the first person. Then we relabel those emotions and experiences in order to transform them into positive experiences. Visualization can be done in two ways. 1. Passive role on the part of the patient, where he or she lets himself or herself be carried away by our story. 2. Active role on the part of the patient, where he or she is the protagonist, and we facilitate the regression. At the beginning, we can take the lead into the visualizations, but later on, it will be the patient who takes the lead. The ideal is for the patient to be the protagonist, to speak, to ask, etc. If you're interested in learning more about clinical hypnosis, watch our next video. Aspects to be taken into account in all the therapy. Remember, read the description of this video where you can find a link to free training classes on clinical hypnosis. And you can also download several free ebooks. If you have any questions, add them in the comments area. On this topic and many others we'll talk about in the channel and in the videos that we'll publish. So if you're interested, do not miss our next videos. Thank you very much.